Think about how just a simple nod, maybe it can mean yes here, but something totally different somewhere else.
Oh, definitely. Or even just the rhythm in someone's walk.
Right. It tells a story, doesn't it? It's this whole unspoken language that's always like shifting. And that's actually where we're going today. We're diving deep into how these distinct ways of moving, these expressive forms, can just sort of pop up naturally from a common starting point.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, I think, is seeing this happen in a structured system, like RhythmSpeak.
Exactly.
We've got the source dialectal expansion in rhythmspeak.pdf, and it really digs into how the core parts, these things called MOVES, the motion-optimized verbal expressions,
right,
how they naturally start to branch out into, well, you could call them movement dialects. It's kind of like how English has different accents and slang in different regions.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
And this document is from the folks behind RhythmSpeak itself, laying out how these movement vernaculars just happen organically. So our goal here in this deep dive is really to get under the hood. What drives this expansion? And why is it seen as a good thing? Something that actually adds value.
Well, the author kicks things off by really stressing that RhythmSpeak isn't just like random hand waving.
No, it's built.
It's built, yeah, on a carefully put together base of these inducted MOVES. Each one has a specific meaning everyone agrees on. And crucially, holding them together are the PIFS, the primary identifying features.
PIFS, right.
Think of those as the non-negotiables, the absolute essential bits that make sure a MOVE, like, say, acknowledge, it still recognizes acknowledge, even if my way of doing it has a slightly different, local spin than yours.
Okay, so the inducted MOVES and these PIS, that's the foundation, the shared code, basically.
Yeah.
Keeps communication clear.
That's the bedrock.
But then, what actually lights the fire? What causes these dialects, this diversity to emerge? The source talks about the organic grounds for it.
It does, and it's pretty intuitive when you think about it. First off, just plain physical diversity and, well, style.
Like how people move differently.
Exactly. You and I could both do a MOVE, like, express agreement. We'd both hit the PIFS, the core parts. But maybe my version has a bit of a sway, just naturally, maybe from some dance I used to do, and maybe yours is more, grounded, really solid. If a whole community starts doing it with that similar sway consistently, over time that becomes a local signature, a dialect feature.
Right, like regional accents in speech. It just becomes how things are done there. And the source also talks about cultural rhythm and local symbols getting mixed in. That sounds really fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Think about spoken dialects. They soak up cultural stuff, idioms, values, right?
Totally.
RhythmSpeak dialects seem to do the same. The source mentions regional music, for instance. Imagine a place where a specific drum beat is really central to life. That rhythm could easily just weave itself into how people perform RhythmSpeak there. It might affect the speed, the flow, the pulse of the movements.
Wow. So the dialect itself could actually hold pieces of cultural heritage.
That's the implication, yeah. It could be this incredibly rich archive showing you things about a community's history or values just through movement. Maybe things you wouldn't even get from just listening to them talk.
That's powerful. And it's not just the big cultural things, is it? The source brings up like small local gestures taking on meaning too.
Exactly. Could be tiny. A specific flick of the wrist, maybe, that only means something to that group, like an inside joke, but in motion.
Yeah.
And, shared rituals, community traditions, all that stuff can shape how RhythmSpeak looks and feels in a particular place.
So these repeated experiences, they give weight, even to small variations.
Precisely. Which leads nicely into this idea of nuance sets. The source highlights these as another key piece of the puzzle.
Okay, nuance sets, let's break that down. They're like small variations already built into the system. Subtle differences on a core MOVE.
That's it. RhythmSpeak basically says, okay, for this concept, there might be a few slightly different ways to express it, different shades of meaning.
Gotcha.
Now, what happens is a community might just consistently prefer one of those nuances. Maybe it just feels more natural or fits their style better.
Ah, I see.
And over time, especially if they combine that preferred nuance with, say, a unique way of using space around them, or a different speed, or a specific emotional posture, that favored nuance starts to feel like its own distinct local form.
So it's like a slight fork in the road that becomes a well-worn path for that community. Not a whole new MOVE, but a distinct local flavor of an existing one.
You got it. It's a subtle drift that solidifies.
And then this idea of contextual inference.
Yeah.
That seems vital for these subtle things to actually work as communication within a dialect.
Oh, it's fundamental because people are using these variations repeatedly. Within their group, they start to build up a shared understanding.
Right.
Even if the variation is tiny, if you always use it in this situation, or when talking about that topic, people in the group learn what it means in context.
Like an inside joke again. Outsiders might miss it.
Exactly. The shared context, knowing the situation, facial expressions, how space is used, the whole flow of the conversation, all that becomes part of the sort of unwritten grammar of that dialect. It's co-created by the community.
So even without a formal definition, enough shared use gives it meaning locally. That feels really bottom up. Very organic.
It is.
Now, something important the source mentions is that RhythmSpeak doesn't, try to stamp these dialects out. They're actually recognized, even documented.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a key point. They're not seen as errors or deviations to be corrected. They're viewed as valuable additions, enrichments.
Okay.
So there's actually a process, or at least the potential for one, where a specific dialectal form could be formally acknowledged, maybe for its regional flavor or its unique stylistic contribution.
So if a community in, say, Brazil develops this really expressive way of doing the gratitude MOVE.
Exactly. RhythmSpeak could potentially recognize that, maybe even catalog it as a specific dialectal MOVE. The documentation might note where it came from, what makes it different from the standard inducted version.
That's clever. It preserves the uniqueness without breaking the core language.
Right. And the source even floats ideas like integrating these through maybe contextual education materials or performance showcases. So it's not about rigid rules, but about understanding and appreciating the variety.
Keeping the core strong while letting the edges flourish.
That's a good way to put it. It's a balance. Which brings us to those hypothetical examples in the source. They really help make this concrete.
Yes. Okay, let's look at those. First up, the urban resilience dialect, pegged to Chicago.
Yeah.
Described as having punchy transitions, sharp, angular movement.
Yeah, and the specific example is the MOVE, stand tall. In this dialect, maybe it's done with really tight elbows, feet planted super firmly, representing grit, determination.
You can almost picture that, can't you? That feeling of resilience in the posture itself.
Totally. It's like a physical embodiment of a narrative strength, perseverance in a tough environment. The contained energy suggests a sort of guarded power.
Okay, then, opposite end of the spectrum, maybe.
Okay.
Island flow dialect, Caribbean roots. It's all swaying, open hips, fluidity.
Right, very different feel. And the source specifically links it to music, suggesting Nuance sets might evolve to mimic steel pan rhythms.
Oh.
Leading to styles maybe called ripple talk or wave speak. You can just imagine that fluid connection to the music.
That really hits home how culture shapes the movement. The openness, the flow. It probably reflects the environment, the music, the whole vibe.
Beautifully illustrates it. Yeah, the names alone, ripple talk, wave speak, evoke that feeling.
And the last one, youth motion dialect. Social media generation. Fast cuts, TikTok loops, bursts of energy.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. It emphasizes facial rhythm and really intricate wrist movements, almost like they're remixing the standard MOVES into these quick, shareable, almost meme-like sequences.
That shows how fast things can change, right?
Yeah.
New tech, new ways of communicating online, bleeding directly into a physical language.
Absolutely. The speed, the focus on smaller, rapid movements, it mirrors that fast-paced visual online world. A really clear example of a new context driving new styles in RhythmSpeak.
These examples really underline the main point, don't they? That RhythmSpeak is designed to be flexible. It's meant to be a living language.
Exactly. The source makes that comparison to jazz standards or hip-hop flows. You have a shared foundation, a structure everyone knows.
Right, the chords or the beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on top of that, there's infinite room for improvisation, for personal style, for regional variation.
And these dialects aren't just tolerated. The source argues they actually make RhythmSpeak better.
They enrich it. Each dialect adds new expressive tools, new layers of meaning, and it becomes part of this growing archive of movement holding cultural memory.
So it's not fragmentation. It's not the language breaking down.
Yeah.
The source wraps up with this idea, unity through divergence.
I like that phrase.
Yeah. The core MOVES, the PIFS, they provide the unity, the common ground. But the dialects offer the local color, the specific voice, the diversity.
And together it creates this richer, multi-layered system. You have shared meaning and you have unique expression.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Supporting this natural growth, documenting it, recognizing it, it aligns with the whole idea that movement itself is always cultural, always emotional, always evolving.
Precisely. It embraces the very nature of human expression through movement.
Okay, so pulling it all together from this deep dive. RhythmSpeak starts with the solid base, the inducted MOVES held together by PIFS. But on that base, this amazing variety, these dialects just naturally grow.
Yeah, driven by everything from just how our bodies are different to deep cultural rhythms, local symbols, and even communities latching on to specific nuances.
And crucially, RhythmSpeak doesn't fight this. It welcomes it. It sees dialects as adding richness, documents them, and understands that this blend of unity and diversity is what makes it a living, breathing language.
Absolutely. And, what really strikes me is how this mirrors language everywhere. Spoken languages constantly shift and adapt and branch out, seeing it laid out for a movement-based system. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, about other kinds of communication, maybe even non-human communication. Are there similar patterns out there? This interplay of a shared core and then diverse localized expressions shaping how connection happens. It's something to ponder.
Definitely food for thought. Well, thanks for joining us on this exploration into the really dynamic world of RhythmSpeak and its dialects.